Hello everybody and welcome to Car Confections. Now sitting behind us is the all-new Prius, but it's not just in a Prius. Drew, what is this? This is the Prius Prime,
Prius
right?
Prime, yes. This is the all-new plug-in hybrid variant of the Prius. And of course that's very exciting because this has a dedicated battery that allows you to drive quite a distance under pure electric power. There's a lot of improvements with this new generation, and today we're going to take it on a real-world range test. So let's go ahead and get into it.
But before we get started here, we do want to talk about some of the range and spec figures for this all-new Prius Prime. So Drew, you're going to go ahead and handle some of this.
Well, obviously the main spec that you're probably wondering about is the battery capacity. It's a 13.6 kilowatt hour lithium ion battery pack. Quite a bit larger. Actually, you're getting substantially more range out of this model, of course, which is the big number that matters the most. So the SE version of this Prius Prime is rated for 44 miles of range. That is going to go down to 39 miles of range with this model we have today, because we do have the larger alloy wheels. As you can see, those are very good looking compared to the hubcaps on the SE trim level, but you know, it's not too big of a difference between the models. If you want to go for the more stylish one, 39 is still a very exceptional range. Any way you look at it, you're looking at 76% more range than the previous generation. So that's a huge difference. And that's in addition to the fact that this is vastly more powerful than the last generation model as well. You're looking at 220 horsepower. That is 99 horsepower more than the previous model. And as a matter of fact, just the electric motor on this by itself produces more power than the previous Prius Prime. So you're looking at a vehicle that can go 0 to 60 in 6.6 seconds now. But of course, that's not what we're going to be doing today. We're not going to be 0 to 60. We're going to be just doing a real-world range test. So on other channels, you may have seen people do 70-mile-an-hour highway test. However, at Car Confections here, we decided to come up with a route that's going to really reflect the real-world use that most people do. So that's going to include anything from stop-and-go traffic in city all the way up to interstate speeds. And we've came up with this nice loop that's really going to test it out in all these real-world conditions, because the average person is not going to just drive out of their garage and get straight on the interstate and go 70 miles an hour. As a matter of fact, that's really the least efficient way to use an EV model. So without further ado, I think let's go ahead and get into this really good looking Prius and see if it lives up to that range expectation.
All right, guys, so now we're taking off in this Prius Prime, but before we really dive into this range test, we do want to talk about some of the rules that we've set in place to make sure that it's fair for every vehicle that we test out, and show you guys what those rules are. So first of all, we're going to be following the speed limit on all of the roads that we go on, so no speeding, no going under the speed limit. We'll try and keep it as best we can at exactly the same speed as the posted speed limit. We're also going to be putting it in the Eco Drive mode for this part, and we're not going to be doing like hard accelerations or anything like that, because that does burn more range. So we're going to do our best to simulate what the average person does when they drive. Right.
A lot of that's going to be down to being in the Eco Drive mode. That should actually, you know, kind of retard the throttle response and everything. Eco Climate as well. With this Prius Prime, we've got everything set up. Of course, when you go into the Eco Drive mode, it is going to put your climate in Eco mode straight from the start. We're going to keep it on 72 degrees here. I think that's a good number that we can use both in the winter and summer. And as far as when you get inside the Prius Prime, so it is going to be by default in the EV drive mode. So it's going to be locked into that until you completely deplete the battery. And one of the interesting things about this model versus some of the other plug-in hybrids we've been in is that if it's in the EV mode, you can absolutely floor this and it will not turn the engine on.
Right.
And go full throttle. I forget exactly how many horsepower it is. It's like 126 horsepower in just the electric motor. So that's really plenty of power to get you up to speed. So it's very a cool thing that Toyota lets you do that no matter what type of acceleration you have. You can stay completely in that. You're not going to use any of the gas engine until you completely deplete the battery. You can manually, of course, turn it into hybrid mode if you prefer. That way it does cycle between the engine and the battery. Now for these tests, we're also going to keep the regen in its most aggressive setting. That, of course, is just the best way for recuperating energy while you're driving, especially when you're in town. And the first leg of this test is going to be in town. It's going to be a mixed level of speed and a lot of red lights, so we're going to kind of simulate that stop and go, which most people are doing in the city settings or out in the suburbs.
And this test is actually set up to be about 50-50 between city and highway driving. That was obviously intentional because I think that represents what a lot of people end up doing. You might leave from your suburban house, hit a bunch of red lights, and then head to the interstate to get where you're going. That is what we're going to really be doing in this real world test. And we will be doing this for every EV that we do a range test for, this exact same. We're about to end our initial city section and get on the highway here. So we wanted to do a check-in. We drove 10 miles, almost exactly, and the Prius is sitting at 32 miles of range left. So you can do the math on that. It was originally supposed to have 39, so if you'd driven 10 miles, that would mean that you would theoretically have 29 miles of range. So we're actually outdoing what it's rated at currently. So that's good for Toyota.
So good on this first section. Yeah, the power of this electric motor is really, really good. You can accelerate without even really getting into that power. So just staying in the eco acceleration really easily and still keep up with traffic. Now as we get up to speed here, we'll have to kind of tap into the power mode a little bit to get us up to 70 without getting hit by a semi-truck.
So now we've gone ahead and set our cruise control on 70 for the rest of this highway stretch here. We're just kind of cruising along. I do want to mention, while we're cruising, just how comfortable this Prius is. It is a very, very comfy ride. I'm very happy with the seats. We've been living with this for the entire week, and certainly we've had no issues when it comes to the ride quality, even with the larger wheels that this XSE model has. So we've been very happy with that.
This Prius does also have really good driver's assist function, so the steering is really being taken care of, mostly for me. It's not a hands-free system here at speed, although it does have the new traffic jam assist. I believe it's the first Toyota that is offering that system with the Prime model only. And this does actually allow you at low speeds to go hands-free, but not at the full speed.
And we are exiting the interstate right now onto a highway, correct?
We'll be briefly transitioning, then we'll be going to a highway that's going to be lower speed. So we were driving 70 miles an hour on an interstate. Now we're going to transition to a 55 mile per hour highway.
And we were on the interstate for approximately 8 miles. We started at 10. It's 18 miles right now. So for about 8 miles, we're on the interstate, and we'll see how long we're on the highway stretch. All right, and we've made it to our 55 mile an hour highway section here. We briefly had to do a little section of 50 mile an hour, a little bit more stop and go traffic. And then once we get off of this section, we'll be back in the city for full stop and go traffic after that. But so far, the Prius Prime really is seeming pretty impressive. We've gone 19.6 miles, almost 20 miles, and we still have 24 miles of range left. So you can do the math on that. That's sitting more like 44, 45 miles of EV range instead of the 39 that it was rated at. So we'll see how it holds up on this leg of the journey, as well as in the stop and go traffic. But so far it seems like it's going to be outperforming the EPA range estimate.
Yeah, so far so good. Definitely impressed by what we're seeing. I figured this would be pretty efficient. Of course, the Prius is relatively lightweight versus, you know, some plug-in hybrid SUVs, which are going to have to struggle against that mass a little bit more. And this is a very aerodynamic vehicle, so that's going to be serving it well on the highway or in the city, but especially at high speeds. That low coefficient of drag, you can just tell by the shape of it, is very wind swept, so you can count on all that wind just kind of sliding right over it. Even the windshield wipers have this special like cap over top of the handle just to make sure that nothing is impeding maximum aerodynamic efficiency.
Yeah, I've honestly, that's one of the first things you notice when you sit in this vehicle is just how sloped this windshield is. It feels like you're driving a Lamborghini with the rate of slope, and that's all for aerodynamics. You know, Toyota knows what they're doing when it comes to hybrids and plug-in hybrids. They've been making them for a long, long time. This Prius is one of the most efficient vehicles that money can buy, and certainly we're going to see that here reflected when it comes to our EV range as well as our fuel economy.
Yeah, not really related to this test specifically, but it does have great visibility as well out the front and out both side windows. Not so much out the back, but especially out the front.
I also do want to point out, if you want to know all the facts and figures and specs of this Prius Prime, we do have a full review on the channel. So if you're just coming for this range video and you want to know more about this Prius Prime, we have a full in-depth review. We talk about a lot of different things. You won't want to miss out on that. So go ahead and find it on our channel right now. We have it on there. There's lots of information you won't want to miss out. Alright, so we're exiting off of the highway there. So far we've driven 29 miles and we are still showing 17 miles of range left. So, I don't know about you, Drew, but the math is certainly not adding up to equal 39, that's for sure.
This seems to be doing really good so far. Now, of course, you may have noticed through this video, Mason's the one telling you all the factoids over there. That's because the steering wheel blocks pretty much all the useful information unless I set up here like this. I can only see the top of it. I think there's enough I can see the speed, at least, that I'm going, but the efficiency or the range and stuff kind of gets blocked out.
And now we have entered the full stop and go traffic. For those of you who are native to Lexington, you know Nicholasville Road and the nightmare it is. So we have entered this this aspect of it. Tons of red lights, lots of traffic. This is like a good simulation. If you guys lived in Los Angeles on the freeway, this is probably about what it would be like for you guys. So this is pretty much stop and go, the worst like mileage conditions that you're going to get. But of course this is an electric vehicle, so it tends to not use a ton of range when you're just sitting still in traffic. Alright guys, so we are at 5 miles of projected range left on this Prius Prime. We actually had to extend our loop out because this battery had not died yet.
Yeah, I thought what we had set up would be adequate, but we're really going the distance here at the Prius Prime. Yeah. I'm pretty impressed for sure so far with this.
Yeah, so far we've gone 45.1 miles on pure electric range. Yeah, you heard me right. That's already 6 miles over the EPA range, and we still have 5 miles left of battery. So I think we're going to get a final number that's close to 50 miles, but we're going to see that final number here in just a second and see how well this Prius Prime does. But that is very, very impressive, guys. I think Toyota has maybe understated the range here, and maybe the EPA didn't quite get exactly what we're going to get here in real world conditions. Right.
Like we had said numerous times, the idea behind this is just to try to simulate that real world situation. And with this amount of miles, for instance, maybe the normal thing that Mason and I would be doing around town, this could last 2 days without even having to plug it up and recharge it. you know, as you get lower in range, it doesn't like kill the power or anything, because it does have a gas engine to back it up. You know, some EVs, when you get down to a really low state of charge, they're going to start restricting your power output, but this feels just as snappy as it did when we pulled out of the driveway.
Down to 2 miles of range left. We're up to 47.3 miles as our trip today. An hour and 26 minutes from our mixed driving on city and highway. I feel like we've done a pretty representative drive loop for most people.
Yeah.
Certainly there was quite a bit of highway driving, there was quite a bit of city driving. A lot of driving here at like the 35-mile-an-hour range and traffic,
Pretty
braking,
much all
accelerating.
all the different things. Especially if you live in like suburban America, which most people do. This is very representative of all those different circumstances you might find yourself in a day-to-day, going from work to home to the groceries to, you know, soccer practice, whatever you're doing in your day-to-day life.
Oh, there it goes.
The engine has powered on. What is our final reading, Mason?
Snap a quick picture of it. 49.6 miles. It took us an hour and 31 minutes. Official reading, 49.6 miles on a single charge in this Prius Prime. Holy moly, guys. That is very impressive. Kudos to Toyota for designing a very fuel-efficient and aerodynamic vehicle that, with a 13 kilowatt-hour battery pack, can go nearly 50 miles. That is very, very impressive, guys.
Yeah, I think this is, you know, at this point, a plug-in hybrid is, you know, very good when you're getting that type of range, because that really even takes into account some extra trips that you might have to make. So it really covers like a lot of your day-to-day activities very, very thoroughly. So we're certainly impressed here with our first annual real-world range test, Car Confections real-world range test. Again, you know, mixed driving, all the settings we went over at the beginning of how we plan on testing future vehicles on this loop, but very, very impressed.
Yeah, and I think that's a prime example of why we're doing this test, because this thing is rated at 39 miles. We're finding more like 50 miles in the real world. So for those of you who are looking to buy a Prius Prime, you're probably really wanting to know what that real world range is going to be. Is it 30 instead of 39, or is it 50 instead of 39? You're going to find it here on Car Confections. So we're very happy that you guys joined us in this video with the real world range test. And if you're not already subscribed to the channel, we would really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button down below. Of course, there's a lot of other Prius Prime content on the channel if you want to check that out. Additionally, there's every other vehicle basically on the face of Earth on there. So go ahead, subscribe, and join our family. Anyway, we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.